Welcome to Private Money Secrets. I'm Keith Yackey and I'm your host, and all we talk about here is private money, real estate, and some other fun stuff. Grab your favorite beverage. Let's dive in. Maybe you've heard the statement that you should go all in on your strengths. Forget about your weaknesses. Gary Vee and others like this have touted this, and I understand kind of what he's thinking and where he's coming from. He's basically saying, listen, if there's a bunch of stuff that you hate doing, if there's a bunch of things you're not that great at doing, don't judge yourself as not being a good person or being quality or having great traits and being talented, because there's just things you don't like to do. And so, it'd be smarter for you to delegate those and for you to, have somebody else do that. So that's one side of the argument. And I can appreciate that, because the truth of the matter is there are some things that I'm just not that great at, some things that I'm not. And if I'm being 100% honest, don't really want to become good at. But the other side is making a strong point. And I don't know that it's actually the other side, but it's more of saying the same thing, but wanting to make sure that just because something's hard, just because something's difficult, doesn't mean you should shy away from it. So there's this concept that basically we're saying, hey, listen, if you suck at a bunch of stuff, quit doing it. But you got to also take that in its context, and that is, you're probably going to suck at a lot of things even when you're just starting with it. For example, when I first started doing stand-up comedy, I sucked really bad. Well, after doing 150 shows, I got a lot better. But right as I was going into it, all my friends were like, oh my God, you're going to be amazing at stand-up comedy. You're super funny. You're already great at speaking, blah, blah, blah. You're talented. You're outgoing. And you like being in the light. There's a lot of things that I had going for me. But I'll tell you, my first encounters of doing stand-up, I royally sucked. And had I just quit, I don't think I would have experienced what I experienced on show 150. In fact, shows 50 to 150 were rather good. I got to perform with a lot of really cool people. A lot of headliners that are modern day headliners said, man, you're amazing. Keep it up. You're doing great. But if you would have asked me after my first 30 shows, hey, Keith, how do you feel about this? I'd be like, I suck. It's hard. But I think the determining factor of whether you give up on something, whether you try and focus on your weaknesses and bring them up, we're not saying be average. Hey, let's be average. I understand what Gary Vee's saying. He's saying, hey, listen, go all in on what you're amazing at, so that way you can become the best in the world at that. And all the other stuff, just go. I agree with that. But also having the caveat that I think a lot of people have used that teaching, used that mantra, or used that axiom, as it were, as giving up on stuff that's hard in the beginning that actually they could have figured out no problem. We also need to throw in the mix of what is our highest and best use of our time. Listen, there's a lot of things that I delegate out. You're listening to this podcast right now. This is not produced by me. I speak into a microphone, I share my truth, I upload it, and I have somebody who's way more talented at this, producing it, putting everything together, mixing it, making it sound good, putting it on the internet so that you can do it. Could I figure it out? Yeah, but I've come to realize that that's not my highest and best use of time. It's better to pay somebody money to be able to do that for me, and they love and enjoy it. So it's a true statement what Gary's saying, but also know that it's not your excuse to be able to shun hard work. In fact, anything worth building, anything that you're going to look back on and go, wow, I'm really proud of that. Or if you want the deepest satisfaction of who you are and you want to be really proud of yourself, it's going to be because you did something hard and you accomplished it. One of my mentors and my best friend, Dan Martell, said it like this. He said, man, listen, do all the hard stuff, all the grunt work up first, so that way you know how to get the result that you're looking for, then map out the process and hire somebody that isn't you to be able to do it for you from there on out. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. I'll close with this story, and it's the story of somebody who I think pretty much any American has heard of, probably seen his movies, probably seen pictures of him around, whether it's in Hollywood or whether it's in gymnasiums and lifting places. But we've all heard of Arnold Schwarzenegger. And this guy was Mr. Olympian. He was the biggest, baddest bodybuilder of all time, but his calves were lacking. His calves didn't develop in the same proportion that his bulging biceps and his humongous pecs and shoulders did. So what he did was he cut off the lower parts of his legs on his pants. Why? So he could be always aware, I'm lagging in this department. I need to keep working on this. I've got to change this because this is going to hold me back from being the best I can possibly be. So I'm not sure what your lagging part is. I'm not sure what your calf story is, like Arnold Schwarzenegger's, but I can tell you that if you just follow Gary Vee's advice without context, I just wanted you to know there's an opposite side to that. There's the Arnold Schwarzenegger story who said, hey, listen, I'm a bodybuilder. I've got to have great calves, just like I got to have great biceps and back muscles and everything else. And so he made it readily available and aware to the world and to himself, more importantly. I have got to change this. I have got to become better at this if I want to truly become the best the world has ever seen. So maybe for you, it's you're horrible about planning. Maybe for you, you're horrible about, being disciplined. Maybe for you, you're horrible about certain things. I'll tell you what, there's certain things that if you're horrible, you're never going to be successful at. Like a lot of people will say, well, Gary says, if I'm not really good at this, I should double down on my strengths. Yeah, but guess what? Gary's diligent about doubling down on his strength. And if diligence and real stick-to-itiveness and persistence, if you go, well, being diligent, being persistent, being, restrictive, being able to control myself, those really aren't my strengths. So I'm just going to worry about this other stuff. I can tell you what, man, some of those character qualities, if those aren't your strengths, you're going to have to lift those up. What Gary's talking about is if you hate accounting, then you need to hire a bookkeeper so you're not spending 2 hours a day in numbers that you hate doing. But if you go, oh, I'm just not that disciplined. I'm not that, I don't have discipline. I don't have the stick-to-itiveness, so that's not my thing. No. That's your calf situation. And you need to get back on the horse. You need to get in there and you need to work on those things. You're never going to be successful and you're never going to be proud of yourself unless you master diligence. So if your calves are lagging, cut off your pants. So that way you're always aware of what you need to work on to get better. I hope that provides some context and gives you a little of my philosophy. But the bottom line is this. Gary Vee says it louder than anybody, and that is put in the work. So regardless if you're doing something you love or doing something you don't love, the only way you're going to get a massive result out of it is by putting in the work. So go put in the work. Quit crying to everybody else of why you don't have what you want. Put in the work. Bring up your lagging body parts. Bring up your lagging skills. And go crush it. All right, so if you're wanting to learn how to raise more private money, go to www.privatemoneypro.com, www.privatemoneypro.com, where I can show you how to be a private money pro. Take care and go rock it.